It was a multitude of people, every age, every race, every color coming together, standing for justice for people.
Okay, I'll call this meeting of the Westland City Council to order. Roll call.
Councilman Godbout.
Present.
Councilwoman Green.
Present.
Councilman Hersberg.
Here.
Councilman Londo.
Here.
Councilman McDermott.
Here.
Councilwoman Rakowski.
Present.
President Hart.
Here.
A quorum is present. Unfinished business item 1, adoption of prepared resolution declaring racism is a public health crisis. The motion was by Councilman Hersberg. It was seconded by Councilman Londo, and I've been asked to call roll. The motion passes unanimously. The motion passes unanimously. The motion passes unanimously.
Roll call. Roll call. Roll call. So, that's just the way it's been. That handles this issue.
Actually, it doesn't, Council President, because you don't represent the entire council. Thank you, Council President. I'd like to start tonight by thanking the members of our community, concerned citizens, community partners for calling in tonight, taking time away from yourself and your families to speak about the importance for the city to make the right and the just decision as it relates to the resolution that I submitted declaring racism a public health crisis. I'd also like to state that the resolution is actually the first step in declaring the official opinion of the government body being City Council. And once we get beyond that point, I think it's important to keep moving forward with tangible procedural and policy changes and results that impact our community. And I believe the next step would be to look at our ordinances and make sure that they are consistent with the resolution that we will come together to pass.
We ask that our Heavenly Father give us guidance and the will to address racism and poverty, the underlying causes which have led us to this point. We can do that by praying for the family of George Floyd and ensuring his legacy and passing serve as a stark and everlasting reminder that we must do and be better. Many eyes have been opened. Praying for all those people of color who have received unjust treatment in their lifetime and that they find the courage to speak and be heard. Your voices matter, and we need to hear them. Praying for the protesters, their voices, that they also be heard and things begin to affect change in our country and our world. We ask that they be safe and not allow us to forget.
I stand speaking about the agenda item, racism is a health crisis. It is disheartening to know that it takes a demand from many different areas to try to get the council to do what is just and right. We've had a Better Westland for weeks demanding change, Michigan United to email, phone, and text blast. We've had door knocking. We've had pastors even going to the mayor to change his stance on it. For these attempts, it is troubling. It is frankly sad and even more disheartening that the community has to come out in force to proclaim that respectfully, 6 white council members don't speak for, nor do they know what's in the best interest of the African-American community. That is sad and troubling. In Mayor Wild's 2017 State of the City address, he demonstrated and spoke to a lack of diversity in the police department. What's really troubling is in that time, from 2017 to 2020, nothing has changed. In his administration, he has no African Americans on his administrative team, nor on his executive team. How can you demonstrate that you know what it takes to do diversity? And then when we look further, In a male-dominated society, it is common practice for men to tell a woman that he gave her the opportunity, that she should be happy with what she receives, that she should know her place and deal with it. This is the same thing that happens with men and women in the African American community and women as a whole. This is what Council President James Hart did to Councilwoman Tasha Green when he communicated in these exact terms, quote, "I put this on the agenda on your request alone," even though his name's on it, "and as a professional courtesy." This statement demonstrates two things. His name as the author on this resolution lacks truthfulness as he communicated that quote, that she put it on alone, that because it was, as he stated, done as a professional courtesy. That tells many people in the Black community, you've just told them to deal with it and to know your place. We need you to put forth the original resolution and attribute it truthfully.
If this council turns down real language with teeth on that proposal, it'll demonstrate that it's not representative. I don't want to believe that. So I'm urging the council to pass the original language that truly recognizes racism as a public health crisis, as demonstrated by the data.
Although this resolution, I mean, it's been out on the books for, I guess, for a while now, because it was mentioned in the July 6th meeting. And it went to the city lawyers for a review. And in principle, the resolution has merit. But since this is an effort for the entire city, and the minority population is in the southeast corner of the city, which I am a part of, Annapolis Park, we had no knowledge of the content of this resolution until we pulled it up on the website today. We might have had some more input to it, but this didn't happen. So I'd like for you guys to hold on to it for a minute until it's discussed down here, since we are the greatest population of Blacks in the city down here.
I'm having friends tell me that while they are peacefully protesting, law enforcement is laughing at them. Now, I have seen Council Member Mike McDermott there. I have seen Council Member Tasha Green. We appreciate that type of support. But I really would think that with the civil unrest that's going on, that this would be more of the top priority to bring peace and also be able to bring policy and solutions for the people.
I called in today and I was present for the beginning here where you had a nice little tribute to John Lewis. And I'm wondering how it is that you can be so dedicated like that, but then with the racism as a health crisis bill that's coming through, you strip it of everything that it needs to have effect, to be anything more than just a symbolic victory. It just seemed sad to me.
So I wanted to mention also the resolution that was brought up about racism as a health crisis. And I do remember, as you met Jim Hart, President, made your comment, you talked about John Lewis and his fight that he had since he was at the age of 23. So we do know that his main fight was for voting rights, but it also was for social justice and racial equality. One thing we're doing is we're trying to make progress. And one thing we realize is that in order to make effective progress, we need to have partnerships. And when this resolution came about, we do realize that in order for it to be effective for the entire community, it's going to take a partnership of people to make the decisions about what the resolution should speak to. I do know that other counties in the state of Michigan have bought into the resolution in the original format. And I'm thinking that if some changes were decided to be made, I'm thinking that the other community groups should have been included as well.
As far as I understand, Westland is 30% not white. And while I have no doubt that the council is qualified, I'm seeing very little representation of women, even less of people of color.
Just some facts. Tasha Green is the first African-American woman elected to the City Council. 0% diversity in the fire department in the history of Westland being a city. Currently less than 5% racial diversity for the police department. Minorities estimated to be 30% of the Westland citizen population. Mayor Wild has a 19-member mayoral cabinet, not one African American. Majority white city council, 6 of the 7 officials, a white mayor, a city attorney to remove sections of a racism solution that would require the city to make procedural changes to racial equality and anti-racism practices is nothing less than white supremacy. We need the original resolution for racism is a health crisis.
First, I'd like to start by thanking the community, the citizens of Westland, and everyone who took time to call into our meeting tonight to express concern and to encourage the city to have more discussion before we move forward with this very important resolution for our city. I'd also like to thank all community partners that have been involved with reaching out to us, urging us to do the right thing, who've been working hand in hand as our citizens and communicating their feelings about this matter. That includes Pastor Edward Pruitt of A Better Westland, Pastor John Duckworth of Gethsemane Baptist Church, Pastor John Hearn of the Inkster Ministerial Alliance, our very own Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, Senator Erica Geis, who sponsored the bill at the state house or at the state level with Senator Marshall Bullock, as well as the Michigan Legislative Black Caucus. I'd like to thank Michigan United for all of their support regarding this measure. FEMS for Dems, the Western Wayne branch of the NAACP, and again, all community partners that are named and unnamed. I'd also like to take a moment to thank Mayor William Wild and our members of Westland City Council for opening their hearts and minds to the feedback of the people that we work for in the city of Westland and who we represent, which are the residents. So thank you for hearing their pleas. And due to the fact that we've had overwhelming comments from the community tonight, urging City Council to take a second look, not only take a second look and move potentially in a different direction with this ordinance, but allow our community partners, which are our residents, the ability to attend a meeting, potentially a study session, so that they can weigh in with their thoughts before the 7 of us make a decision that impacts overwhelmingly impacts the African American community in the city of Westland. And so with that, I will make a motion to postpone item number 4 under new business until the next city council meeting that occurs on Monday, August the 3rd, to give city council, the mayor, and our community the opportunity to come together in discussion and agreement regarding this very important resolution.
I'll support the motion.
We have a motion to move the item 4 till next council meeting on August 3rd by Councilwoman Green and supported by Councilman Herzberg.
This motion is to postpone to the next meeting, which is August 3, 2020. Motion passes unanimously.
I want to really urge each council member to look at the situation that many people in the community face on a day-to-day basis and find real solutions.
Okay, I'll call this meeting of the Westland City Council to order. Roll call.
Councilman Godbout.
Present.
Councilwoman Green.
Present.
Councilman Herzberg.
Here.
Councilman Londo.
Here.
Councilman McDermott.
Here.
Councilwoman Rakowski.
Present.
President Hart.
Here.
A quorum is present.
As we consider this resolution and move it to the final stages and enact this, that we remember the history. In Westland, what we have found is that George Floyd was the straw that broke the camel's back. And we've seen 5 days of protest outside of the police station where protesters of all races, Black, Hispanic, white, and other races come together and say, even in Westland, we can't breathe. There were 7 days of protests outside of City Hall where racial diversity, that can, kept getting kicked down the road and citizens continued to speak out. Then the resolution came forth, presented by Councilwoman Tasha Green. And in the midst of that, it was gutted and weakened. It began what we call an outcry from the citizens. Westland's demographics for racial, the racial components, it's about 30% minority. When we compare that to the government, we find that the government and the mayor's office and the police station and the fire department, they are nowhere near that. When we understand the need for racial diversity, we understand the heart of the people. We understand the voice of the people. We understand that opportunities for racial diversity, those things help with economics. They help with the health crisis itself, the directly and indirectly impacting those. So as you consider this resolution and you place your vote today, I need you to think about the people who have been marginalized, those people who have been disenfranchised, those people who have been set aside. This is the time that our vote or your vote matters to show the people of the city of Westland that you care about them above all else.
Moving to unfinished business. Adoption of prepared resolution declaring racism is a public health crisis.
So moved.
Motion?
Motion by Councilman Hersberg.
Got a motion by Councilman Hersberg, supported by Councilman Landau. Next, from the council, I have Councilwoman Green with her hand up. Councilwoman.
Yes, thank you, Council President. I noticed that on several sections of the agenda, you have referenced the maker of the items that go before City Council. Even on the agenda that we have today, item D under consent calendar, you listed that it was from the petitioner. Item F, you listed that it is from Brown, who is one of Mayor Wild's executives. Item H, you listed that it is from Mo, again, one of Mayor Wild's executives. I reviewed several previous agendas from our meetings and noticed that that has been standard practice. And due to me having been the elected official that presented the resolution to the city to declare racism a public health crisis, I asked you in writing on Friday, July the 17th, Monday, July 20th, and also Friday, July 30th, to make the correction to the agenda, because it is written that you, in fact, are the person who submitted it, which we all know that is not the case, but based on standard practice, it is in fact written that you are the person who submitted it. And so I would like to ask you, do you have any objection giving me credit for the work that I did on behalf of Westland citizens, and accordingly updating the agenda to remove your name as the presenter on unfinished business item 1 and list mine?
I don't put those in there if they're from Hart or from Mo and from that. That's actually a function of the clerk's office. So when the clerk's office receives these agenda items, there's certain people that can put things on the agenda. Members of the mayor's staff can put things forward to the agenda. And when anything comes from the council, that comes vis-a-vis and via the council president. So regardless whoever the council president is. So if a number of council members wanted a resolution, it comes to the president, and so the clerk knows where that item came from. So if Councilman Godbout was a council president, it would say from Godbout. If Peter Hersberg, Michael Landau, whoever. It's always been that way. Whoever puts the item forth on the agenda, and not so much the genesis of it. If you look back through history too, there's been other resolutions, and it wasn't the council member that had their name on there. It was either the council president, because the president moved it forward on the agenda, or it came from the attorney's office. So keeping things the way they've always been, and there's a reason for it, for the clerk's office, so that they're managing all of their items effectively. That's the way it goes. Now, I will tell you this, yes, in front of everyone here, we all know you brought the agenda item forward, and I thank you for bringing that. And I don't think anybody thinks to object to that. So we all agree that you brought the item forward, and we work collaboratively with everyone to put it together. So that's kind of how that works. So it's got nothing to do with, it's not my idea. It's not mine. It's the role of the office of the council president currently that I hold. When I move that item forward, the clerk's office puts that came from the council president, whoever that might be at that time.
Thank you, Council President. And I appreciate your explanation, but can you refer me to the area of the policy and or procedure that states that that is the way that it is supposed to be done? Or is this a preference? And I say that because you are referencing employees under Mayor Wiles on our agenda. I think my computer might have broken up. You are referencing Mayor Wiles' employees. You are referencing outside contractors and petitioners on the agenda. And you are telling me as an elected city councilwoman that this is the way it is. And you have to draft the agenda giving yourself credit. My question is that based on your personal preference? And if it is not, can you please refer to the policy that states that?
Again, and the policy that covers that, since we've been doing it that way for a long time, as long as I know, the best policies and procedures portion of our policies and procedures, best practices rather, portion of our policies and procedures covers that behavior. So, I mean, that's just the way it's been.
Thank you. What clause and what section of the policy and procedure states that? Because I'm unable to find it.
I will have to stop this meeting and research it. I'll get back to you afterward. So we'll move on. It is there. I assure you it's there.
It's not there. And unless you can refer me to policy, I would like to receive the appropriate recognition as an elected city councilwoman for the resolution that I have put forward.
Okay, 10-minute recess. All right, call this meeting back to order. I have 7:30. It's been 10 minutes. Article 3, Section 8 of the City Council Policies and Procedures that were enacted March 16th of this year. In the event that the council policies and procedures do not cover a specific item, process, behavior, or procedure, the council shall use any existing or established best practice and custom which will apply. That handles this issue.
Actually, it doesn't, Council President, because you don't represent the entire council. You took the position to do that yourself. That was not presented to the entire council. You're one of 7 members.
This is the policy and procedure. I am not making this up.
The policy and procedures states that the council shall use any existing or established best practice or custom which will apply. This, you taking that step to do that does not mean that it applies. And if you don't speak, one member does not speak for the entire council. And so if you're telling me that the rest of the 6 members want to give you credit for my resolution, I would like them to say it for the record.
We all got a resounding support on that at our study session, and the study session was a fantastic study session. We did break protocol a little bit, but it was important, and I think we really helped to have that feedback on the front side, as well as having the feedback on the back side. Roll call.
Councilman Godbout, unfinished business item 1, adoption of prepared resolution declaring racism is a public health crisis. The motion was by Councilman Herzberg. It was seconded by Councilman Londo. And I've been asked to call roll. The motion passes unanimously.
As a resident, I find today to be another sad day in Westland. While we celebrate, we also put our heads down in disgust. We expect better from our governance, who just passed a resolution on the side of racial justice, but proved quite the opposite in the same breath. Hypocrisy. Integrity and character is at stake here. Integrity and character requires doing what's right all the time and not what you can prove to support ills. A Forbes article dated June 16, 2020, it states the title as "Dear White People, here are 5 uncomfortable truths Black colleagues need you to know." The heading, first truth, quoted, "Racism doesn't just show up in its most extreme form. There is indeed a continuum of racist thoughts and behaviors, and you may be on it." Quote from the article, quote, "The truth is that most Black people, thankfully, won't encounter the Derek Chauvin knee on your neck brand of racism. Instead, they're much more likely to have their comment dismissed or ignored in a meeting, which would," end quote, "which would include taking credit and using obscure policy language to silence a minority member. What we saw when the original resolution was gutted was racism. What we saw today when an obscure policy was used to support a racist act was clear racism. From slavery through Jim Crow and now, we find white members of society in a position of power taking credit for the work of a Black member of society. It has been long proven that Black members of society have to work twice as hard to go the same distance as white members of society. Barack Obama had to get a Harvard degree and still was characterized as he was not qualified. But George Bush, 43, was able to move forward with C's. A resolution passed today. While we celebrate the resolution passing, we also celebrate what was further exposed. What it further exposed is that racism is, as hidden as it often seems to be, is bold right in our government in Westland and on full display, and that character and integrity is lacking. We demand better from our government.
I think saying best practices as part of a policy is so vague and doesn't clearly state that resolutions that are submitted by council members have to have the council president listed on the agenda. As a resident of Westland, I would like to see more transparency from our government. I would like to know which council members are submitting what. I think you need to consider if your best practices are really best practices.
Many of you know the process of getting this resolution passed or even presented in a manner that would make meaningful change looks good on the outside, but on the inside and behind closed doors, it was definitely an uphill battle. As one of the callers stated, I do believe that some of the issues that we overcame successfully were rooted in racism. But we have arrived today with a resolution that will is the first step at real equality in the city of Westland. So thank you. And I'd also like to thank many of the community partners who came forward and demanded that Westland officials do the right thing and allow every community, especially communities of color, a voice at the table, and that the elected representatives hear the pleas and the cries of the people, much of whom supported this resolution as written. Those community partners include Senator Erica Geis, the Michigan Legislative Black Caucus, our Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, Femmes for Dems and Femmes for Change, Lori Goldman, Michigan United, A Better Westland, Pastor Edward Pruitt, Pastor Duckworth, Inkster Ministerial Alliance, the NAACP, every Westland resident, especially those who I was able to talk to in the community. Thank you for your support. This is just the beginning. I appreciate you, and I'm going to continue to stand with you against all odds. I have been fighting for equality, not only racial equality, but gender equality since I was elected 3 years ago. And as you can see, based on some of the things that happened tonight, we have not quite arrived yet. But there's still much work to do. And what we did as a community with that resolution was the exact thing that many of our elders have been doing and did for people like me and others to sit here today. So we actually wrote history in the city of Westland, and we did that together. So thank you.
We win united. Hey, before you go, Make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment. Let me know what you think. We are here for you.